Admiral Zena Ferris stood motionless before the grand observation window of the Verdant Alliance's command center, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of the nearby nebula. The massive structure, carved from a single asteroid, had served as the heart of Alliance operations for over 3 centuries. In all that time, no unauthorized vessel had ever breached their defensive perimeter. Until today. Status report, she commanded, her secondary breathing gills fluttering with controlled anxiety. The command center's crystalline displays flickered with real-time data as her crew worked frantically to analyze the intruder. Unknown warship maintains position at the edge of the cerulean system. Admiral, Senior Observer Ixel reported, his tentacles dancing across the neural interface. Energy signatures suggest weapons powered down, but their defensive shields remain active. Size and configuration match nothing in our database. Zena's inner eyelids contracted as she studied the vessel's image. It was beautiful, in a stark, utilitarian way. Sleek lines of dark metal stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. But it was the visible battle damage that drew her attention. Scarred hull plating, hastily repaired breach points, and what appeared to be recent weapons fire along its port side. They're broadcasting something. Communications Director Vren announced, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with excitement. It's in standard Galactic. They're requesting direct communication with Alliance leadership. The command center fell silent. In the 1,000 years since the Verdant Alliance had formed, unifying 17 spacefaring species under a banner of peaceful cooperation, they had never encountered a civilization advanced enough for faster-than-light travel that wasn't already known to them. The implications were staggering. "Put it on the main display," Zena ordered, straightening her ceremonial sash. The massive holographic screen shimmered to life, revealing a sight that made several crew members gasp audibly. The being on screen was Bictal, with pinkish-brown skin and dark fur concentrated on top of its head. It wore a crisp uniform adorned with unfamiliar symbols, and its expression, visible on a face that seemed unnervingly exposed without scales or carapace, was carefully neutral. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Hyperion," the alien announced in flawless standard Galactic. "We apologize for our unannounced arrival, but we come seeking urgent assistance." Earth. The word sent ripples of murmuring through the command center. Every member of the Alliance knew the stories. Intercepted transmissions speaking of a young species that had risen from planetary confinement to the stars in mere centuries instead of millennia. A species whose history was filled with both tremendous achievements and devastating conflicts. "Humans. I am Admiral Zenek, Thera of the Verdant Alliance," she responded, allowing her scales to shift to a formal pattern of blue and gold. "Your presence in our space is unauthorized, Captain Chen. Explain yourself quickly." The human's expression changed slightly. Was that a grimace? Their facial movements were so subtle compared to the dramatic color changes and appendage positions used by most Alliance species. 3 days ago, a group of criminals stole something from an Earth research facility, Chen explained. A prototype weapon of immense destructive potential. Our pursuit led us here, but we lost their trail in the Denebola sector. We believe they're planning to sell this weapon to the highest bidder. Zena's primary heart skipped a beat. The Denebola sector bordered several lawless regions of space, places where the Alliance's influence was limited, if what the humans said was true. "This weapon," she asked carefully, "what exactly is it capable of?" Captain Chen's face grew grimmer. "We call it the stellar destabilizer. In theory, it can trigger artificial supernovas. In practice, we never intended to find out. The project was meant to be dismantled next month as part of an arms reduction treaty." The command center erupted in shocked whispers. The ability to destroy entire star systems wasn't just a weapon. It was an apocalyptic threat to all spacefaring civilizations. "Why should we trust you?" Zena challenged, her scales shifting to a skeptical pattern of green and silver. "You appear in our space unannounced, in a warship bearing signs of recent combat, with a story of apocalyptic weapons and mysterious criminals. This could easily be a pretext for invasion. A fair concern, Chen acknowledged. That's why we're willing to submit to your authority in this matter. Our weapons will remain powered down. You can verify our story through our sensor logs and communication records. All we ask is your help in tracking these criminals before they can sell this weapon to someone who will use it. Zena studied the human captain carefully. Everything she knew about humans, their rapid technological advancement, their history of warfare, their reputation for unpredictability, suggested caution. But there was something in Chen's demeanor, a sense of desperate urgency combined with rigid self-control, that rang true. Security Council is assembling now, Admiral, Vrent reported quietly. They're requesting your immediate presence. Zena nodded slowly. Captain Chen, maintain your current position. I will consult with our leadership and return shortly with our decision. She gestured for the transmission to be cut. As she made her way to the council chambers, Zena's mind raced with possibilities. If the humans were telling the truth, the Alliance faced its greatest crisis since the crystalline plague decades ago. If they were lying, well, that might be even worse. Either way, the next few hours would determine not just the fate of the Alliance, but possibly the future of galactic civilization itself. The real question was, were humans truly the unstoppable warriors of legend, or could they be something else? Potential allies in a dangerous galaxy. She had a feeling she was about to find out. The Security Council chamber was a marvel of Alliance engineering, its walls embedded with living crystal that responded to the emotional states of those within. Right now, those crystals pulsed with anxious patterns of red and amber as 17 representatives of the Alliance's member species debated the human situation. They are warriors. Elder Kex thundered, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Every transmission we've intercepted from Earth speaks of conflict, of battles, of wars that span entire solar systems, and of peace treaties, scientific achievements, and artistic wonders, countered Representative Mira, her feathered crest rising with emotion. We cannot judge an entire species based on fragments of intercepted communications. Admiral Zenek Thera waited patiently as the debate continued. The Council's reactions were predictable, fear warring with curiosity, suspicion battling hope. After 3 hours of circular arguments, she finally raised her hand for attention. Honored Council, she began, her scales shifting to command patterns. While we debate, a weapon capable of destroying entire star systems may be approaching terrorist hands. I recommend we at least verify the humans' claims. The chamber fell silent as the council processed her words. Finally, High Chancellor Vox, their eldest member, spoke. Bring them here, the ancient being wheezed through its atmospheric processor. Let us look these humans in the eyes and judge their truth ourselves. 2 hours later, Captain Sarah Chen stood before the council, flanked by her first officer and chief science officer. They seemed remarkably composed for beings facing 17 of the most powerful individuals in known space. Show us, High Chancellor Vox commanded. Chen nodded to her science officer, who activated a holographic display. The chamber darkened as a simulation began playing. A standard star, unremarkable in every way, until a tiny point of light approached it. There was a flash, and the star began to collapse in on itself before exploding in a massive supernova. The stellar destabilizer creates a cascade effect in a star's fusion processes, Chen explained, her voice steady. A single device no larger than a shuttle can trigger the destruction of an entire solar system. We developed it as a deterrent, never intending to use it. But in the wrong hands. Why build such a thing at all? Elder Kex demanded. Because we were afraid, Chen answered simply. Humanity is young compared to your civilization. We've made mistakes, terrible ones, but we're learning. That's why the weapon was scheduled for dismantling. We're trying to be better. The honesty in her voice was striking. Zena watched the council members' reactions. the subtle shifts in color, posture, and bioluminescence that indicated changing thoughts. "The criminals," Zena prompted. "Tell us what you know about them." Chen's first officer, Commander Rodriguez, stepped forward. "They call themselves the Midnight Collective, an organization specializing in stealing and selling advanced weapons. We've tracked them across 3 sectors, but they're clever. They use legitimate shipping lanes, false credentials, and—" He hesitated. "We suspect they have inside help from someone with knowledge of Alliance patrol patterns." That revelation sent another wave of murmuring through the Council. The idea that someone within the Alliance might be helping these criminals was disturbing. "We intercepted a partial transmission," Chen continued, activating another hologram. A rough star chart appeared, showing a series of possible routes through Alliance space. "They're heading for the Outer Rim. There are at least 3 major black markets there where they could auction the weapon." To pirates, Representative Mira said softly. "To zealots and terrorists and anyone with enough credits to pay." "Precisely," Chen agreed. "Which is why we need your help. Your sensor networks, your knowledge of these sectors. With them, we might have a chance to stop this before it's too late." High Chancellor Vox raised a gnarled appendage. "And if we help you, what guarantee do we have that Earth won't turn this weapon, or others like it, against us in the future?" Chen's expression hardened slightly. "With respect, Chancellor, if we wanted to attack the Alliance, we wouldn't have come here openly, powered down our weapons, and asked for help. We're willing to share our tracking technology, our tactical data, everything we have that might help stop these criminals. Because if that weapon is sold, nowhere in the galaxy will be safe." Zena found herself studying the human captain closely. There was something in her demeanor, a combination of military discipline and diplomatic finesse, that seemed almost Alliance-like. Perhaps humans weren't so different after all. "The Council will deliberate," High Chancellor Vox announced. "Admiral Cathera, please escort our guests to the diplomatic quarter." As they left the chamber, Chen fell into step beside Zena. "Your people are afraid of us," the human said quietly. "Can you blame them?" Zena replied. "Your species achieved in centuries what took us millennia. You build weapons that can destroy stars. You fight wars that would make our most hardened warriors tremble. And yet," Chen smiled slightly, "here we are, asking for help. Maybe that's the real test of civilization, knowing when you can't solve a problem alone." Before Zena could respond, her neural link buzzed with urgent information. She stopped walking, her scales shifting to alarm patterns. "What is it?" Chen asked, instantly alert. "Long-range sensors just detected a ship matching your criminal's description," Zena said grimly. "They're heading toward the Crimson Nebula. If they reach it, the radiation will mask their trail," Chen finished. "How long do we have?" "Hours at most. But without Council approval, I can't." "Admiral," Representative Mira's voice rang out behind them. The avian diplomat hurried forward, her feathers gleaming. "The Council has voted. You have provisional authority to cooperate with the humans." Zena's scales rippled with surprise. That was fast. "Sometimes," Mira said, glancing at Chen, "the greatest risk is in not taking one at all." Chen straightened, her posture shifting to something more formal, more military. "Admiral Cathera, I place my ship and crew at your disposal. How do you want to proceed?" For a moment, Zena felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This wasn't just about catching criminals anymore. This was first contact, the real beginning of relations between humanity and the Alliance. Everything that happened next would set the tone for centuries to come. "We'll need to move quickly," she said, her scales shifting to tactical patterns. "Captain Chen, let's show the galaxy what humans and the Alliance can accomplish together." The Hyperion's command center hummed with activity as Alliance technicians worked alongside human crew members. Admiral Cathera watched with fascination as Captain Chen's people adapted their systems to interface with Alliance technology. She had expected the integration to take days. The humans managed it in hours. "Your ship is remarkable," Zena admitted, her scales shifting to patterns of admiration. "I've never seen such adaptable systems." Chen smiled as she watched her chief engineer, Dr. Patel, excitedly discuss quantum harmonics with an Alliance specialist whose crystalline form sparkled with intellectual curiosity. "We had to be adaptable. Earth's first contacts weren't always peaceful. We learned to modify our technology quickly or risk being left behind." Incoming data from the Alliance sensor network, Commander Rodriguez announced from his station. The main display lit up with a complex web of information, tracking particles, energy signatures, and quantum disturbances across dozens of light years. There, Zena pointed, her secondary arms gesturing at a particular pattern. "That's the edge of the Crimson Nebula. The radiation there will mask their trail," Chen finished, "unless we got something they haven't counted on." She turned to Dr. Patel. "Doctor, show them what we've been working on." The engineer's face lit up with enthusiasm. "We've combined our quantum wake detection system with your crystalline sensor arrays. The nebula radiation might hide their energy signatures, but nothing can hide the quantum disturbances their drive leaves behind. It's like footprints in sand," offered the Alliance specialist, their crystalline form pulsing with understanding. "Even when the wind blows away the surface marks, the deeper impressions remain." "Exactly," Patel beamed, "with your sensors range and our tracking algorithms." An alarm cut through the discussion. "Multiple ships detected," Rodriguez reported. "They're not trying to hide anymore. 7 vessels, attack formation." The main screen showed the criminal vessels surrounded by a cluster of smaller ships. Even at this distance, their designs were recognizable to Zena. Pirates and mercenaries from the Outer Rim, drawn by the promise of whatever payment the Midnight Collective had offered. "They must have realized we're tracking them," Chen said grimly. "Now they're making their stand where they think they have the advantage." Zena's scales shifted to tactical patterns as she studied the situation. "The nebula will interfere with weapons targeting. Your ship's combat capabilities will be reduced." "True," Chen agreed. "But you said the Alliance has ships nearby." 3 fast response vessels, Zena confirmed. "Lightly armed, but their navigation systems are specifically designed for nebula conditions." "Then we adapt," Chen said firmly. "Your ships guide us through the nebula. We provide the firepower." "Commander Rodriguez, get me a firing solution that accounts for the radiation interference." "Dr. Patel, I want our shields modified to handle the nebula's effects." The command center burst into action. Zena watched in amazement as the humans rapidly reconfigured their systems, their fingers flying across interfaces as they made adjustments that should have taken days of careful calculation. "Admiral," Chen said quietly, "your people know these space lanes better than anyone. We'll need your expertise to cut off their escape routes." Zena felt her primary heart race with the challenge. This was the moment of truth. Would their impromptu alliance hold under pressure? "Security Council is requesting an update," Communications Officer Vren announced. "Tell them." Zena paused, looking at the determined faces around her, human and Alliance working together with surprising harmony. "Tell them we're about to show the criminals why they shouldn't have united our peoples against them." The next hour was a symphony of coordinated action. Alliance vessels took point, their advanced sensors piercing the nebula's veil while transmitting precise navigational data to the Hyperion. The human warship followed in their wake, its massive form moving with surprising grace through the cosmic storm. "Enemy ships are adjusting course," Rodriguez reported. "They're trying to split up. They think we'll have to choose which group to pursue," Chen said with a slight smile. "They don't know what we can do together." "Admiral." Zena's scales rippled with anticipation. "Alliance vessels, execute pattern Sigma 3, Captain Chen. Prepare for a targeting solution. Now." The Alliance ships suddenly scattered in 3 different directions, their movements precisely choreographed. The pirates, expecting their pursuers to be blinded by the nebula, were caught completely off guard. Before they could react, the Hyperion emerged from the radiation clouds, Its weapons already locked on. Target their engines, Chen ordered. Let's take them alive if we can. The first volley of shots struck with surgical precision, disabled 2 of the escort ships instantly. The remaining pirates tried to regroup, but found themselves caught between the Hyperion's firepower and the Alliance vessel's swift, coordinated maneuvers. The criminal ship is making a break for the denser part of the nebula, Rodriguez warned. Not today, Chen and Zena said almost simultaneously. They looked at each other in surprise, then shared a moment of understanding. Alliance vessels, containment pattern, Zena commanded. Hyperion, full ahead, Chen added. Show them what happens when humanity and the Alliance work together. As their joint fleet moved in for the kill, Zena realized something had changed. The humans were no longer mysterious warriors from intercepted transmissions. They were allies, partners, perhaps even friends. And together, they were about to make history. But as they closed in on their quarry, none of them realized that the true test of their newfound alliance was still to come. The Midnight Collective had one last desperate card to play, and it would shake both humanity and the Alliance to their core. The criminal vessel's destination became clear as they pursued it deeper into the Crimson Nebula, a massive structure looming in the crimson haze, its dark silhouette barely visible through the swirling gases. By the first light, Zena breathed, her scales shifting to patterns of shock. That's the lost station of Axiom Prime. You know this place? Chen asked, studying the ancient structure on the main display. It was an Alliance research facility, abandoned 50 years ago after a containment breach. The radiation made it too dangerous to maintain. Zena's secondary arms moved in agitation. But the security systems should still be active. How did they get access codes? The answer came in a burst of encrypted communication that made every Alliance member on the bridge freeze. The transmission was using high-level Alliance military frequencies that only senior command staff should know. Admiral, Communications Officer Vren said quietly, that signal, it's coming from inside the station, and it's authenticated with Council-level credentials. Chen's expression hardened. Your inside source. Worse, Zena's scales darkened with realization. This wasn't just about selling a weapon. Someone's been planning this for a long time. She turned to Chen. Captain, I need to contact the Security Council immediately. As Zena made her urgent communication, the Hyperion sensors revealed more details about the station. It was massive, nearly 20 kilometers across, its spiral arms extending like a giant metallic flower. Dozens of smaller ships were docked along its outer rings. Multiple contacts, Rodriguez reported. I'm reading at least 30 vessels. Pirates, mercenaries, and something else. There are Alliance military signatures in there. Rogue elements, Zena said as she returned, her scales now showing patterns of both anger and determination. The Council just confirmed. Admiral Nexus has been secretly building a power base for years. Dissatisfied officers, corrupt officials, anyone who thinks the Alliance has grown too soft. And now they have a superweapon, Chen said grimly. Perfect leverage to force changes in Alliance leadership. Incoming transmission, Vren announced. It's Admiral Nexus. The main screen flickered to life, showing a massive being whose iridescent scales gleamed with unnatural patterns. Unlike the subtle color shifts of normal Alliance members, Nexus's displays were harsh, almost aggressive. Admiral Cathera, Nexus's voice boomed. I had hoped you wouldn't be the one to find us. Your service record shows such. Promise. Betrayal shows nothing but cowardice, Zena replied, her scales flashing with contempt. Betrayal. Nexus laughed. I'm trying to save the Alliance. We've grown weak, content to hide behind our borders while younger races surpass us. Look at these humans. In mere centuries, they've achieved what took us millennia. We need to change, to grow stronger, to steal weapons of mass destruction. Chen interrupted, stepping into view. To ally with pirates and terrorists. Nexus's scales rippled with amusement. Ah, the human captain. Thank you for bringing us such a wonderful gift. The stellar destabilizer will ensure the Alliance's dominance for generations to come. You're assuming you can control it, Chen said carefully. That weapon was never meant to be used. The cascade effect is unpredictable. You could trigger a chain reaction that. Enough, Nexus roared. You have 1 hour to surrender your vessel and withdraw all Alliance-loyal forces. Otherwise, his image was replaced by a targeting display showing the stellar destabilizer aimed at a nearby star. We'll demonstrate exactly what this weapon can do. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Options? Chen asked, looking at her crew and their Alliance counterparts. The station's defenses are formidable, Rodriguez reported. Even with Alliance codes, a direct assault would be costly. We don't have time for a siege, Zena added. That star he's targeting. It's on the edge of a populated system. Millions would die. Dr. Paddle spoke up from her engineering station. Captain, Admiral, I might have an idea. The station's radiation shielding. It's old Alliance tech, right? What if we could use that against them? As the engineer explained her plan, Chen and Zena shared a look of growing hope. It was dangerous, maybe even impossible, but it was their best chance. We'll need to split our forces, Chen said, studying the tactical display. Create a diversion here and here, while a small team infiltrates through these maintenance shafts. The radiation levels in those sections are lethal to Alliance species, Zena pointed out. But not to humans, Chen replied. At least, not for short exposures. We can get a team inside, but we'll need your people's knowledge to navigate the station's systems. Zena's scales shifted to a pattern of resolute determination. Then we do this together. I'll lead the Alliance forces in the main assault. You get your team inside and stop that weapon. Admiral Nexus will expect us to try something, Rodriguez warned. Good, Chen said with a grim smile. Let's show him what happens when he underestimates both our peoples. As they began preparing for battle, Zena watched the humans check their equipment with practiced efficiency. These beings, who had emerged from their gravity well mere centuries ago, were about to risk their lives to save Alliance worlds they had never even seen. Captain, she said quietly to Chen, why are you really helping us? This isn't your fight. Chen paused in checking her tactical gear. Because that's what humanity does. Admiral, we fight. Sometimes against each other, yes, but always against those who would destroy rather than build. Against those who would rule through fear rather than cooperation. She smiled slightly. Besides, if we're going to be neighbors in this galaxy, we should start by being good ones. The next 40 minutes were a blur of preparation. Alliance ships coordinated with human tactical officers, planning their assault. Chen's strike team made final checks on their radiation suits, and in the distance, the lost station of Axiom Prime waited like a massive trap, its secrets and dangers yet to be revealed. They had one chance to stop a superweapon, end a conspiracy, and perhaps forge a lasting peace between their peoples. As the countdown to Nexus's deadline ticked away, everyone knew that the next hour would determine not just their own fates, but the future of human alliance relations for centuries to come. The true test of their unlikely partnership was about to begin. The battle for Axiom Prime began with a symphony of light and energy. Alliance ships and the Hyperion launched a coordinated assault on the station's outer defenses, their weapons fire illuminating the Crimson Nebula like artificial lightning. Under cover of the chaos, Captain Chen's strike team approached in a modified shuttle, using the radiation storms as cover. Remember, Chen's voice crackled through the tactical comm. We have 20 minutes before radiation exposure becomes critical. Admiral Cathera, are your ships in position? Ready, Captain, Zena replied from the Hyperion's bridge, her scales glowing with battle patterns. Commencing primary attack run. Now. The Alliance fleet emerged from the nebula's swirling clouds, their formation perfect despite the hazardous conditions. Pirate vessels scrambled to respond, but found themselves caught in a deadly crossfire between Alliance precision and human firepower. Inside the shuttle, Chen checked her radiation suit one final time. Her team, 5 humans and 2 radiation-shielded Alliance technical experts, watched the battle unfold through the viewport. Approaching maintenance shaft Delta 7, the shuttle pilot reported. Radiation levels are intense. Just like a walk through the Jupiter cleanup zones, Chen said with forced lightness, except with better company. The shuttle docked with a barely audible clank. As her team moved through the airlock, Chen activated her suit's heads-up display. The station's interior was a maze of twisted corridors and abandoned research chambers, all bathed in an eerie red glow from emergency lighting that had been running for half a century. Life signs ahead, Rodriguez reported through the comm. Looks like they've set up some kind of command center in the old primary research lab. Makes sense, one of the Alliance techs said, their environmental suit glowing softly. That section has the strongest radiation shielding. It's where they'd want to house the weapon. They moved quickly through the station, encountering only token resistance. Most of Nexus's forces were focused on the battle outside, exactly as planned. But as they approached the research lab, Chen felt a growing sense of unease. "This is too easy," she muttered. As if in response to her words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. "Alert!" An automated voice announced in multiple languages. "Core containment protocols initiated. Quantum cascade event detected." "No," the Alliance tech gasped. "They're activating the weapon." Back on the Hyperion's bridge, Xena watched in horror as new data flooded her displays. "Captain, they're not just targeting that star. The weapon's cascade effect is building faster than predicted. If it detonates here, the entire nebula could go critical." Chen finished, taking out everything within 50 light years. A harsh laugh filled the comm channels. "Finally figured it out, did you?" Admiral Nexus's voice was thick with triumph. "The Alliance needs more than a warning. It needs a demonstration. The Crimson Nebula will be our example, and the galaxy will know that we're no longer a civilization to be taken lightly." "You'll kill millions." Xena's scales flashed with rage. "Including your own people. A necessary sacrifice. Evolution demands." "Evolution demands adaptation." Chen cut in, her voice cold. "Not extinction." She switched to her tactical channel. "Dr. Patel, now." On the Hyperion, the engineer's fingers flew across her console. The station's ancient systems, already struggling with the weapon's power demands, suddenly faced a new challenge. Emergency protocols buried in its code for half a century awakened, responding to commands that matched their original Alliance authentication. "What are you doing?" Nexus demanded as warnings flashed across his screens. "Did you really think the Alliance abandoned this station just because of a containment breach?" Xena asked, her scales showing patterns of grim satisfaction. This facility was developing quantum containment technologies. The breach wasn't an accident. It was the final test. Inside the station, Chen's team reached the research lab's entrance. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the stellar destabilizer, a deceptively small device connected to a massive power core. Around it, Nexus's personnel worked frantically at controls that were rapidly losing response. "The radiation fields," Chen said to her Alliance tech. "Can you reverse them?" "Already done," they replied, their suited form working at a junction box. "The station's original containment systems are back online. But the weapon? Leave that to us." Chen looked at her team. "Breach and clear. Remember your radiation exposure limits." The next 5 minutes were a blur of action. Chen's team stormed the lab, their speed and efficiency catching Nexus's forces off guard. The rogue admiral himself proved more challenging, his massive form enhanced by combat stimulants. But against humans trained in zero combat and Alliance technical expertise, even he couldn't prevail. "The cascade effect is still building," Dr. Paddle reported from the Hyperion. You have maybe 2 minutes before it goes critical. Chen looked at the weapon, its housing now pulsing with ominous energy. Can we shut it down? One of her engineers shook his head. The sequence is locked in. But he studied the readings. Captain, the station's quantum containment fields. If we reverse the polarity, we create a feedback loop. The Alliance tech finished. It would contain the blast. But the station would be destroyed. Chen nodded. Along with everyone still on it. Get to the shuttle. I'll handle this. Captain, that's an order. Get our people out. Admiral Cathera, begin withdrawal of all ships to safe distance. Already done, Zena replied. But Sarah, there has to be another way. Chen smiled inside her helmet as she worked at the containment controls. There isn't, but this is what humanity does, remember. We fight for what's right, no matter the cost. A new voice cut through the comm channel. High Chancellor Vox himself. Captain Chen, the Security Council has monitored everything. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Just make sure it means something, Chen replied. Humanity and the Alliance were stronger together than apart. Don't let fear drive us back into isolation. The containment fields began to pulse as Chen made the final adjustments. The weapon's housing was now a sphere of pure energy, growing more unstable by the second. Sarah, Zena's voice was soft. The Alliance will remember. Containment fields at maximum, Chen reported. Get clear, everyone. It's been an honor serving with. The transmission cut off as the station erupted in a sphere of quantum fire. The nebula's gases swirled around it, drawn into the momentary singularity created by the weapon's destruction. When the light faded, nothing remained of Axiom Prime except scattered debris and a hole in the nebula's crimson veil. Hours later, in the Hyperion's medical bay, Chen opened her eyes to find Zena staring at her with all 4 eyes. How? Chen tried to sit up, but her body felt like it was made of lead. Dr. Patel, Zena explained, her scales showing patterns of joy and relief. She used the station's containment technology to create a quantum bubble around the control room. You were exposed to massive radiation, but our medical technology, well, let's just say humans and the Alliance each had something to teach the other. Chen managed a weak smile. The weapon, destroyed along with all research data. Admiral Nexus and his conspirators are in custody. The Council. Zena's scales shifted to formal patterns. The Council has voted unanimously to establish full diplomatic relations with Earth. They're calling it the Chen-Cathera Accords. Bit dramatic, Chen muttered. Perhaps, but today proved something important. Humanity's strength isn't just in your technology or your warrior spirit. It's in your willingness to sacrifice for others, even those you barely know. The Alliance needed that reminder. As Chen drifted back to sleep, she heard Zena add softly, "Welcome to the neighborhood, Captain. I think we're all going to get along just fine." The Crimson Nebula continued its eternal dance, its gases now swirling around a new void. But in ships throughout the sector, humans and Alliance members worked together, sharing stories and knowledge, building bridges between their civilizations. The question of hostile or hope had been answered not with words, but with actions, and the galaxy would never be quite the same again.